Do you like religious horror? Do you like Sydney Sweeney? If you answered yes to both of these questions, then boy oh boy are you in luck because Immaculate will surely whet your appetite. With a stellar performance from Sweeney and an overall unsettling atmosphere, Immaculate is pretty solid. It's a film I would say is good, but not great. Unfortunately, the film is bogged down by cheap jump scares and a third act that is completely and utterly ridiculous. Immaculate is about Cecilia, a woman of devout faith. Cecilia travels to Italy where she is offered a new role at an illustrious convent, but it becomes clear to Cecilia that her new home harbors dark and horrifying secrets. Things start to go bump in the night, and one thing becomes crystal clear. Nuns? They're creepy as f. So I want to start with some positives here, and I'll start with the main reason you'd watch this. Sydney Sweeney. I've been following Sweeney's career since the first season of Euphoria, and I'm happy to report that she's never been better. She carries this movie on her back, and it's completely effortless. What stands out to me is how well she handles her character's transformation. Cecilia starts as sweet and innocent, but by the end, she's the complete unhinged psychopath, and Sweeney nails both aspects. I would also like to welcome Sweeney into the small circle of Scream Queens. There is a moment late in the film where Sweeney is just screaming into the camera in a long, continuous shot, and it goes on for probably 2 to 3 minutes. And it's just her screaming at the top of her lungs over and over again. And it's without a doubt the most intense scream I think I've ever seen in a horror movie. So well done, Sweeney. Well done. Another aspect I enjoyed is its atmosphere. 90% of this movie takes place at this Italian convent, and it's a pretty spooky place. Whether it's the quiet hallways at night, the catacombs under the property, or the confessional, it's all oozing with a creepy atmosphere. I'd also say that some of the imagery is really effective. As an example, there are these people who walk around the convent wearing red masks over their faces, and it's super weird and eerie. There's also a good amount of gore here. If you're someone who likes your violence, sometimes over the top, then I think there's enough here for you to be satisfied. We get some bludgeonings and we get a decent amount of body horror, and the film isn't afraid to present it in all its horrific glory. With some solid atmosphere, solid gore, and a solid performance from Sweeney, why am I so lukewarm with Immaculate? Well, as I said in my opening, there are a few things, but it mostly comes down to the lazy use of jump scares and the ludicrous reveal that happens in the third act. I think I've seen too many slow burn horror films of late, horror films that don't rely on jump scares. This film has so many careless jump scares that it just becomes tired. And newsflash for horror directors, jump scares do not make your film scary. They just don't. So please stop using them. And listen, I don't mind jump scare here or there, especially if it's motivated. But in this movie, some of them are so tired and recycled that it's almost comical. As an example, there are many jump scares in this movie that are your typical, like, character walking slowly backwards, and as soon as they turn around, bam, there's someone standing behind that startles the main character. Like, seriously, how many times do we have to endure these type of useless jump scares? And that's just one example. There are many examples of these recycled jump scare tactics throughout the entire film. Then we get to the third act reveal. See, the big plot point here is that Cecilia, a virgin nun, has become pregnant. The church sees this as a miracle and begins to treat her as if she's a saint. However, over the course of the film, we start to learn that something is up with the church, and then we get the big reveal on what's actually happening, and it's kind of ridiculous. This is one of those reveals that you're either going to buy it or you're not. I, for one, think this reveal kind of robs the movie of its tone and atmosphere. You think something supernatural is going on, but instead it becomes more scientific. The moment a priest is pushing Sweeney through a science room full of deformities, I sat there and said,
What the fuck?
luckily, the movie's climax is pretty entertaining, with Cecilia running around the convent, taking people out like she's John Wick. But overall, the reveal did not work for me personally. Also, be warned, the last scene of this movie is totally shocking. So much so that my entire Friday night crowd collectively gasped. It's a bold ending that I actually kind of have to applaud. In the end, Immaculate isn't a bad movie, not at all. It's a pretty solid horror flick. It just has a wacko reveal and some lazy jump scares throughout. Luckily, though, Sweeney's performance is fantastic and the gore here really delivers. I would say that if you like religious horror and you like Sydney Sweeney, and if you can handle like 15 to 20 jump scares, then I would totally recommend you check this one out. It's a solid little horror flick.